Hey, my name's Neal Brennan, and I have a special on Netflix called Blocks, where I talk about the things that make me feel crazy and isolated in the world. And I now have a podcast called Blocks that you're looking at and listening to, where my friends come on and they tell me the things that make them feel crazy and isolated and like something's wrong with them. And my guest today, ladies and gentlemen, is a fella that is a comedian that I've known since 2002, I believe.
Sure.
What's the hierarchy of your credits?
It's your show, so let's hear your perspective on it.
Okay, great. I'm glad that you understand the pecking order.
Yeah. Because obviously my number one credit is now Blocks, a podcast based on a special where you get your friends to give away free content for your personal benefit.
It's a business model. Kroll Show, Big Mouth, Stand Up, and Oh Hello. I would say are like the. Am I forgetting anything?
I mean, there's The League.
Yeah.
And then there's a bunch of movies that have not worked.
Great.
But interesting you say Kroll Show one. I think because I think it depends on where you come at things. So like you having had a sketch show on Comedy Central put Kroll Show on a certain level that I think many people would not think of as like in the hierarchy of what I've done as like a high point.
What's most people's?
I think Big Mouth is now the number one thing for the most amount of people.
Okay, I believe that.
And The League for a very large percentage of people is still also very, very important.
That's so wild.
And then I think you could argue there's Kroll Show, and I would even argue maybe Oh Hello
above Kroll Show
in certain regards, even though Oh Hello sort of comes out of Kroll Show.
I would like to say I had a sketch show that I don't talk about. And Danny, our producer, Danny's a black gentleman. What sketch do you think Nick Kroll pitched? You're the only person who can answer. You're the only one who can say it in the room right now. What sketch do you think that Mike Birbiglia, Nick Kroll,
and the rest of our little Georgetown improv group, Conrad Mulcahy, Brian Donovan, Ed Harrow.
Not Mulaney.
Mulaney not part of the group yet.
Great.
Okay.
Danny, what sketch do you think he pitched?
I like that he's going. Yeah, go ahead.
It's about a family. That is correct. We can't say it. Guy writes material that he can't even talk about.
Yes.
You guys pitched that sketch, and it was you pitched it as we
did it as like a CBS Eye on America, like a current day sketch, and you guys very smartly turned it into like a Leave It to Beaver 50s sitcom, which I think elevated it on a lot of levels.
I had to call. I generally don't name drop very much on the show, but I'm going to name drop. I had to call Questlove and sing the theme song into his answering machine. With the lyrics. I guess I didn't have to say the lyrics. It helped. But I always had it would have been funny if I just called the wrong guy in Philly, like some black dude's family, and I'm singing the song into his answer machine, and he's like just trying to eat dinner.
That's like John Tesh calling himself with the NBA on NBC theme song. Have you heard that story?
Yes. Yes. And he kept saying the N-word. That's what's so wild about that.
Well, that's what NBC had a different meant different things back then.
So anyhow,
for the record, Danny laughed at that.
Okay, no, Danny, are we good? Okay, God, thank God. You speak for all black people. It's a great position to be in.
Sorry, everything.
Anyhow, so I've known Nick Kroll 20 years. He's had a great career, and now we're here to mine his emotions for content. Mm-hmm. It's called Blocks, ladies and gentlemen. Nick Kroll. Well, first of all, a couple things I'd like to say about you, which is, I'm interested watching your last special. Was what's the
Little Big Boy?
Little Big Boy. I was interested in seeing your emotional arc because I know you, but I don't know. I mean, I know you pretty well, but I don't know like the ups and downs and everything. So it was interesting to see like the marriage thing and the kid thing. And did you feel like you were on time with that stuff, with like meeting a woman? And because I saw you have big girlfriends, like they were
big girls.
Little Big Boy stuff, but that's what it's about.
Yeah.
They would put you on their lap and call you Little Big
Yeah,
Boy.
yeah.
No, but I saw you have like what I thought were significant relationships that were not working, and I was like, I wonder how Nick feels about this.
I really set up the premise in Little Big Boy of being a late bloomer, which is really also very much the theme of so much of what's going on in Big Mouth. It's true in that, like, you know, I was late to get pubes, I was late to lose my virginity, and then I was pretty late to get into serious relationships. Like I didn't have a serious girlfriend until I at least turned 30. I mean, I had like dated women, but I hadn't had like a very serious committed relationship. And then really I didn't live with a woman till the woman Lily, who now is my wife. I had not.
You still call her the woman Lily.
The woman Lily, yes. Yeah, doesn't everyone call their significant other that?
Yes, I think they should.
And so so it felt on time for me, but I feel like in general, it's a little bit behind the ball for your average person.
Okay. So, but you were never insecure about it.
No, when I turned 40, I was like, I remember being like, I was depressed. One, because I had a couple of my dear friends from high school had just died of overdoses and suicide. And so I was kind of rocked by that of like, wow, I'm 40 and my friends are dying. And then on top of that, I was dating someone and dating in general, but I was like, all of a sudden was like, man, I'm 40 and I have not figured out this massive part of life, which is like, who is my partner? And then like, who is my partner who I'm going to have a family with, you know?
Did you feel like you were supposed to?
Yeah, I mean,
because I'm right now, I'm of the mind of like, I don't know, if I don't have a partner, I don't have a partner.
Right. I think I go back and I had gone back and forth on that. Like I have
still go back and forth.
No, I'm good. But I think like, you know, I have 3 siblings. All of them are married. My parents are still married. All 3 of my siblings have 4 kids. So I have 12 nieces and nephews and 4 marriages around me. So the model is get married and procreate. Like that. Yeah. It's very, very much there. Now you come from a ton of kids, but
and a lot of
broken marriages.
People,
I'm imagining.
I'd almost exclusively.
Your family has the most divorces.
I think
per
it's
capita
that we could possibly have per person. I believe. I mean, most people are divorced.
Yeah, good. You guys can field both sides of a football team at this point.
Yeah, and it will be a violent game.
Yeah.
Believe that.
So I think the modeling was, I never felt, I'm the youngest, so, and you're the youngest too, right? So like, it's very different, I think 12 and 4, but like, the youngest, you feel this like freedom, I think more so than others, to be like, fuck it, I'm not going to do what everyone else did. Like, I'm not falling into like the pattern of whatever pattern my family has established. So I felt very much like that. But then I came to a point where I was like, oh no, I think I would like to have a partner and have a family. I wasn't like, I haven't, since I was 12, I was like, oh boy, one day I'm going to have my own family. You know, I was like, I assume if I find the right partner that I will have a family. But it wasn't like I was like every day counting down the days until I became a father.
Right.
But I kind of in the back of my head was like, this will happen at some point.
You did. You believe that?
I kind of just assumed it would.
Were you like a active uncle?
Full disclosure, Neal read my pilot, Active Uncle, where I am an active shooter who is an uncle who's going into.
It's a horrible title.
It was a bad.
That was my first note.
Don't even get me started on.
What does this mean, active uncle? You just say I'm an uncle.
But I'm an active uncle.
At one point, he looks at the camera and says, "By the way, I'm an uncle.
I'm an uncle, and I'm active, and I'm an active shooter." So I'm going to your school. I'm doubling down on the active shooter. You tried to push through it.
Yeah.
But I came back around.
Part. Kind of a tender time.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So anyway, I was an active uncle, but I lived across the country. My whole family lives in New York. So it was like I'm engaged, but also, you know, you're in for a couple hours and then you're out. I don't know if that's how you know, it's like, so I
might not, I didn't even last an hour a lot of time. Go ahead.
Right. So I eventually like found the right person and went for it.
Your wife seems excellent and is a beautiful looking woman. Like, just like, oh, you're beautiful. Like, you're beautiful.
She's beautiful and she makes beautiful art and she's a beautiful person. She's a good person.
And I called that she was your backdrop on your special was her idea.
Yes.
And it was at one point matches your lips perfectly.
Really?
I don't know if I sent it to you. Your lips are purple. It's the perfect lip. It was so goddamn funny.
We didn't tone the color specific to my lips. I was running out of oxygen on stage.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into some blocks. Avoiding confrontation.
Mm-hmm.
This is a common thread on the show.
Yeah.
At least half of our guests have had it. Sebastian had it, Bobby Lee had it. I definitely have it. Tell me about how you avoid confrontation and when did you realize, like, I have to stop doing this?
I think my family is like a very nice family. We're all very nice to each other. That in many ways is beautiful, but it also means we don't directly deal with confrontation. We just like either ignore it or we wiggle around it with little jokes, or like in my case with a lot of people and a lot of things, I just sort of like roll over and fucking show my belly and I'm just like, fine, like whatever you want is okay.
How long does that last?
There's a tipping point. There's different versions of how one avoid what kind of confrontation we're talking about. Like for example, like I'll go to the airport and let's say I can with my American Express, I should be able to get into the fucking Delta first class lounge.
Right.
But I don't have my American Express.
Right.
And I get to the Delta first class lounge, the Delta lounge, and they're like, you need the American Express card. And it's like, well, I'm in your system. And they're like, you need the card.
Yeah.
At that point, I say, okay, thank you. Have a nice day. And I walk away. My wife is
I wouldn't even try.
You wouldn't even.
I know what's going to happen. They're just going to say you're not in the system.
Right.
And I'm going to be like embarrassed in front of everybody. So I'm not going to do that to myself.
Yes. I will do something very minutely like push back.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, fair enough. I'll fucking go to Chili's too. Like, which is where I want to go to be. You know what I mean? And I think what I've come to in this regard is, and watch how I do this. Watch how I flip this. I think like as a white, straight guy.
Danny, is that true? Is he a white, straight guy? Go ahead.
We'll find out.
Right after this.
As a straight white guy comes from tremendous privilege, like it's hard for me to like put my foot down to say like I deserve more. Like, cause I'm like in the grand scheme of things, I've been given everything. So am I really gonna fucking fight you on like whether I can get into this lounge or not? Like many more people have many bigger grievances.
Also, the lounge is basically a Radisson. What's the one where they have cereal? They give you cereal?
The lounge or the hotel?
Embassy Suites.
Embassy Suites.
It's an Embassy Suites room.
Meanwhile, now a lot of airports have like decent restaurants in them, but instead you're like, no, I'm going to sit in the lounge with like a weird businessman from Dallas.
Many, weird businessmen.
All on IBM ThinkPads.
Yes, which you don't even know where they got them.
Yeah, they're still using the eraser mouse in the middle of the keyboard.
40-pound computers.
Yes, they're using a 40-pound computer eating so wildly salty Chex Mix.
Correct.
From a big plastic dispenser and like cucumber water.
Yeah, that's
like,
correct.
That's where I'm trying to fight my way to get in.
Fuck you, get your hands off. I need those Chex Mix, you bitch.
Yeah, so or like the coldest cube of fruit you've ever seen.
Yep. Also true.
So in that regard, I will not deal with confrontation. Now with my
interpersonally,
interpersonally, so there's like the base like bullshit, whatever. But in general, I'm like this. I will just finish by saying that I think some of my lack of desire for confrontation comes in, if I'm trying to put a positive spin on it, as a feeling of empathy, a sense of empathy for the other. So like the woman at the Dallas airport who does not want to let me into the Delta lounge, I'm like, this woman's just doing her fucking job.
Yeah.
No, like if she lets me in and there's some camera that's seeing that I never presented my American Express card, she's going to get written up. I don't want this woman to get, what do I fucking really care? I'm leaving. Then there's the work version of things, which is
I need you to hit work and personal relationships.
Yes. So in work, I want everyone to like me. I want people to think I'm easygoing. I want people to think that I'm a pleasure to work with.
Is it true or you want people to think it?
Both. I want people to think it, so I make it true. like when you go and scout a location as a producer or director, and you walk into a room and the set designer is like, this is where we're shooting the podcast, the tape podcast where Neal does his podcast where he makes his friends talk about their deepest things, and they don't get shit out of it except the fucking clip on Instagram. That's the sketch. That's the scene. That's the scene in the movie.
You're right. It is an uneven trade for me.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So, by the way, I'm like, I hate confrontation, and yet I just keep going at you. But
you
in this,
cocksucker.
but to me, that is how I also deal with confrontation. Is like
passive aggressive jokes. Yeah.
Yes,
great.
But at least that's in a specific situation where I'm like, no, I can go at you directly about this because like you don't care and I don't care.
Right.
So, but I think like
crying myself to sleep tonight. Go ahead.
Yeah, but that's not my fault. That's because you ate fucking cheese or something. You vegan loser. So I think like, so in this case, like if we came in here to scout this room and our set designer was like, these walls don't work. I'm like, why? It's like, well, because we got red couches and we can't have the red couches with the blue walls. I'd be like, okay, let's find another room. Versus me being like, fucking paint the walls.
Yeah.
Like, and there are times where I wish I was like, paint the walls. And there are other times where I'm like, okay, we got the couches already. What's the room next door look like? It's 5 feet smaller, but the walls are the right color. I don't care that much. Let's shoot in the other room.
Yeah.
I want her to like me. I want less conflict. And I'm also like, what will make for the easiest day for everybody?
Energetically.
Not
you will put the day ahead of the material if need be.
Oftentimes I will, because I believe on some level with the work, sometimes the energy is more important than the material.
Do you want to guess which one I do?
I have a feeling.
Do you want to guess? I had a guy I'm just remembering as you tell this story. We're location scouting. I believe it was on Chappelle's show. It might have been on Half Baked. This is how long ago this was. In the East Village, we're looking at like buildings. We're outside, and the super is talking, and the super looks at me and is like, "No, I don't like this guy." That's how good my energy was. That a super on site was like, he cannot shoot here. I wasn't even doing anything that bad. I was just so energetically bad. And I want people on set to think I'm a good guy also, and I do nothing to make them think that.
That would be the worst. You are in a prison in that. I will do everything in my power to do. Like, you will in your head want everybody to like you, but then your actions do not belie that. Oh, that's a prison.
But what am
that's
I?
Still don't
that's
know a block.
Look, this
and that, friends,
I'm not,
is a block.
Look, cocksucker, I'm not doing your podcast. You're doing mine. But I don't know what to do. It happened like days ago where I needed a shot to be a certain way, and I couldn't convince. I wasn't the director, and I was trying to get the director to like, please do, running out of light, all the shit. Everyone just ended up not liking me. But I got the shot correct.
Yes. And
like the comedy will be better.
Which is, I guess, good. But I guess it's like, I'm always like, will the comedy be better?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I'm also not, I don't start out as a director. I think if you start as a director, or I know you didn't, I mean, you started as a writer, but aspired and then became a director. There is a certain thing with directors where they are like, this is how I want it.
Well, I just know from doing Half Baked, hold for applause, doing Half Baked.
Still holding for someone to applaud.
Danny, don't give me a standing ovation. No one can see it. We shot the movie, and then we're 23, and then the editor was a very famous, had done Liar Liar.
Martin Scorsese.
Rocky. He had done Rocky and Liar Liar. And he did a cut that wasn't right. So I had to sit with the guy, this like adult, gold-plated editor, and basically do what I thought it should be.
Right.
At the first screening, he looks at me and Dave and goes, and this is direct quotes, so please. He goes, well, I guess you guys aren't retarded. So I'm used to like having to make an enemy. Like, that guy hated my guts. And I just had to, I guess it's just part of, like, doing it the way you need it to be done, is that no one's going to listen to you. I wish I was more mild-mannered or had a better bedside manner than you.
I think
that like you.
I think it's a more than anything, it's a bedside manner of like, it's also just like choosing your battles inside of things. But
all of them.
And
those are the battles I choose. All of them.
What battles do I choose? All of them.
Hi, I'm Neal Brennan.
Welcome back to Blocks. Battle Box. Is it too late?
Comedy Central.
On Comedy Central. On a day-to-day basis, I will let certain things go because I'm like, energetically, this day works better if we don't have to start 2 hours late because I forced this woman to paint this room. I don't care. Maybe the next room is a little smaller. It's fine. Like that stuff is fine. But I have been in situations where I have let too many decisions go for too long, and I then begin to resent the person who I have acquiesced to. And also given them the sense, like I believe in really giving people ownership over things that I am working on with them. But at times I then give away almost too much ownership and they feel as though it's theirs. When in reality, in the back of my head, I'm like, no, it's mine.
I'm living in between those two things of wanting to be democratic and also knowing if I'm democratic, I'm going to get pummeled. Like
by others.
Me and Dave got pummeled for 3 years about Half Baked. Like it's successful knowledge. It was not good for our careers until Chappelle. So it was like, then when we did the show, it was like, no. Every fabric comes through me or him.
Right.
Every sketch I did, everything had to come through us because of the experience of like, yeah, whatever. And then you just whatever yourself to a position that you have a thing you don't like.
Well, and I think there's also just like a sense of, when things happen for you and how they happen. So like you guys were kids when that movie gets made, like I don't get close to making a movie.
Yeah.
Or frankly, making a TV show until I'm almost 10 years in.
Yeah.
We made some little shorts on our own, for like, Comedy Central Motherload. Shout out to Motherload.
I mean, right?
Yeah. Shout out to Viacom in general. What a
Are they still called Viacom? Paramount Plus.
Paramount Plus. So I don't come close to making my own TV show for almost 10 years into my career.
Yeah.
So at that point I wasn't like, I hadn't been burned at 22 with like, I had a movie got made and I didn't get to control it at all. So now I have to go in and control.
Yeah.
Nor did I have something like meteoric, like Chappelle Show, to then have to like figure out how to navigate inside of that success. And then what happens after that?
I've had it rough.
By the way, what happened?
Man.
What happened to Chappelle Show?
It's still on. We still do.
Really?
We're rebooting it. Congratulations, everyone. We're going to reboot it.
Oh my God.
Hey. So this company Seed is sponsoring this episode. It's a symbiotic. It's prebiotic and probiotic. Take it first thing in the morning. I've taken it, I don't know, probably 2 weeks now. I hadn't read the ad. I was just eating the pills. And then I was like, I don't know how I'm going to talk about this because it helped me in what we'll refer to as private ways. I don't like talking about number two, not a big number two comedy guy, never was. I'll say this for Seed, the pills that I've been taking. They've made my toilet journeys more regular. How's that for euphemistic? My toilet journeys have become more on schedule. It's helpful. Start a new healthy habit today. Visit seed.com/NEAL and use code NEAL to redeem 25% off your first month of Seed's DSO1 Daily Symbiotic. That's seed.com/NEAL, SEED.com/NEAL and use code NEAL. NEAL. You trying to get in shape? Yo, my man, you like getting in shape? I got you. FitBod. I have been using it since they came on board, right? And I got to tell you, it's significantly better than me kind of guessing. I had like a lot of rumors about how workout, what muscle groups, and maybe try this and that. But now I know exactly what to do and how many times to do them instead of just like, It's probably good for the lats, right? Start making progress towards your fitness goals today with 25% off a Fitbod subscription. Just pick a fitness goal, select your equipment, and Fitbod will create a custom workout program for you. There's no better time to level up your fitness habit. Try Fitbod today. Get 25% off your subscription or try the app free at fitbod.me/Neal. That's fitbod.me/Neal. Fitbod.me/NEAL. Don't you listen? Didn't you hear me the first time? You and John are partners.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder how you navigate. You and John Mulaney did Oh Hello together.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we're in similar positions, but like they're both very funny people.
Mm-hmm.
Dave and John are both very, very funny people. I mean, look. Which camera are you looking at? That one? I'm going to look at this one.
Dave Chappelle and John Mulaney.
Yes.
Yeah. I just want to make sure.
Yeah. How do you? That's who we're talking. I got to say, I'm not very competitive with Dave comedically. I'm competitive with him ideologically.
Mm-hmm.
How do you navigate your relationship with John?
Well, when John left for Africa after Oh Hello,
that's the name of the rehab he went to.
Yeah. God damn it.
Mulaney told me that you said Mulaney's not. You said because Kroll one time was on a podcast and he said Mulaney's not a drug addict. He's more a suicidal alcoholic.
I said that?
Yeah.
I would never say that.
You said it and he heard it and told me.
I would never say suicidal alcoholic. Those were never the issues.
Oh, great. Okay, but what did you find?
By the way, if you want to hear about John and how I talk to him, you can listen to his stand-up act to find out how John felt about my...
Ladies and gentlemen, you can't wait till he goes after Kroll for trying to save his life.
Yeah.
The mistake of trying to save his life.
Yeah. Or the early pre-edited versions of the hour when it was the 2-hour fresh out of rehab.
Oh, I think that's the only one I've heard.
Oh yeah.
Mulaney goes through in his new hour, goes through his intervention, and it's kind of a roast of everyone who saved his life, and it's very funny.
Unless you were there on the day, unless you were one of the people there or one of the people who then had to listen to the act.
Yep.
It was
very
funny.
But you audience members, you have fun.
You have a great time.
Yeah.
Go check out John on tour
John
from scratch.
From scratch.
I don't know if this is how your relationship with Dave is or was, but like, I'm a few years older than John. He was a freshman when I was a senior. I cast him in the improv group.
Yeah.
But I immediately knew he was a fucking genius. And we got along famously right away and have always gotten along both as friends and as comedic partners or collaborators.
Yeah, I've never heard either of you shit on the other one in either
well, you should go watch his act.
I can't, other than, of course, John's
act.
new, that will be on Netflix very soon, I'm sure.
Or rewatch what I just did about John 2 minutes ago. We, I think, have tremendous respect for each other comedically and true and genuine like love for each other as human beings, as friends, and frankly, almost, and this is where I'm getting to, almost as brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And once you become like brothers or family, things get a little trickier.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, and I don't know how this is for you and Dave, but it's like, it's different than just like another friend in comedy.
Yeah.
Like especially when you do something like you make a show together or you do like Oh Hello on Broadway together, like whatever it is, it brings you closer than just friendship. And all of a sudden you can start to treat each other more like family, which means that the gloves are off in a little bit. And the competition or whatever it is that you're feeling. I mean, I have always felt, to be honest, competitive with John because I've never been in a room where couple. I've only been in like 3 rooms.
No, but he crushed every time.
Yeah. But you've seen everyone.
Yes,
he is. Arguably, we're talking about Dave and John.
Both in the top 5, 10.
Top 40 comedians.
Whatever.
Top 40 comedians, Vultures.
Working comedians on the road right now.
Yeah, top 40. Vultures, top 40 comedians of 2008.
Doing dates on the East Coast this weekend.
But, I mean, it is like John is unrelentingly funny.
Yes.
and writes a perfect joke.
Yep.
And not only writes a perfect joke, but delivers a joke perfectly. And has almost, let's call it a photographic memory, so can write a joke and then
literally,
deliver
I believe
it.
he does have a photograph.
And can like remember what he wrote perfectly on stage the next day. Whereas I am fumbling my way through something I improvised a week ago and hoping I can recatch whatever that was. So I have feelings of competition with John. But I also think like when we were doing Oh Hello, that also made me be better every night. And part of the joy of that
I saw once was so fucking funny. And there's so many jokes in it that I still like are still with me. And there were so many moments that were so impressive. You guys laying on the stage trying to make each other laugh is like the night I saw it, I'm sure it was around as good it was very good the night I saw it. Actually, I believe I saw it matinee. But I often wonder, do you worry, like overshadow? Like I get overshadowed by Dave, and it's like it's not close. Like he fucking plucked me out of obscurity to work with him, and then I've slowly like built up a career of my own. Whereas you and John were like together, and he's fucking doing arenas, and not like you handle it well. You seem genuinely proud of him.
I am genuinely proud of him, and I think if you talk to him, there are elements to the career that I have that he would be like, oh man, he's been able to do this and this.
Yeah.
Like it has not been.
You've had 3 TV shows that you've been a star of,
so I think but I think that
successfully
there are those elements to when it's your friend or your brother or whatever, however you feel or think about that person, that you can be, I can hold those things simultaneously. First and foremost, I have an incredible amount of pride in what he's accomplished, and the fact that I'm like friends with him, that he's friends with me, that he considers me someone he wants to work with. All those things like bring me a lot of joy.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of him, and I'm proud to be associated with him.
Yeah.
And then there are times where I'm like, man, that fucking guy kills, and he's playing arenas, and also like, man, like Steve Martin thinks he's the funniest or whatever those things are. And then also, I think like I have incredible amount of, pride in what I've accomplished on my own, and I think something that you might identify with too is like that feeling of like, is anything I do on my own going to be as good as what we did together?
Yeah.
And
I don't have that. Never been a problem.
Never been an issue.
Never. So I've never even thought of it as a thing.
So I think there's that element to that you have to sort of take into account. But also like, I think about Oh Hello specifically as like a pinnacle in like both of artistic and life, the crux of those things coming together.
Yeah.
Where it was like, we're on Broadway together every night. We are having incredible guests come and watch the show, come and be on the show.
And it started, you guys did a show, that's where we met 20 years ago on the East Village place called Rafifi, where you guys would do it. So that's also like part of the story.
Yeah, it's like
that's
it starts
really
when we
cute and sweet.
Yeah, it's like starts when we have nothing. Neither of us have anything going on. It was just the most fun thing that we could do.
It's a thing I'll mention at Rafifi. This is 2004. I was on the show, and Rashida Jones came with me, and we told stories.
You brought your BET award.
That's correct. I brought my BET award. I don't remember why, but I did. You both brought things to talk about. Right. So I brought my BET award. I was carrying it everywhere at that point. My BET Comedy Award. They canceled it because a white man won 3 of them. Let's be honest, BET. And they didn't like it. No one's happy.
No.
Or 2 of them.
And I remember
who's counting.
Rashida brought a stuffed animal with a voice, like a cassette tape message from
Teddy Ruxpin?
Yeah.
Or no, from who was the message
from? Her dad.
From her dad, yeah, that's right.
And he, if I remember correctly.
Go ahead.
But he said, it's Quincy Jones saying to Rashida, may you get all the angel pussy in the world.
I believe he said, keep your dreams as high as giraffe pussy.
Okay.
I believe that's the exact quote.
Okay,
hey, baby.
Thank you.
It's Quincy Jones. It's a horrible impression. Anyhow, Rashida mentioned that she was single. Afterward, you texted her something like, hey, you maybe asked her like, would you want to go on a date? And the idea of Rashida dating you was so absurd. It was like, what are you talking about? And this is before she was on The Office. It was just like a beautiful young woman. and you were I consider a beautiful young man, and it was absurd. So that's how much time has passed. Anyhow, so you and Mulaney are doing Rafifi. You're doing basically Oh Hello at Rafifi 20 years ago, and then so you do this tiny thing, and then it's on Broadway every night.
Yeah,
crushing for 2,000 people or whatever.
So fun. And it was, and I really felt like this perfect symbiosis of like working with your friend, doing very silly shit, but on Broadway. And it was like, what a lifestyle that was to like not be on the road, but be on stage every night for like 2,000 people for 4 or 5 months. And it was the best. It was the most fun. And what's hard with friendship as time goes on and life changes is like, you're like, he's on the road, I'm on the road, he's got a kid, you all of a sudden time gets away from you and space gets away from you, and it's harder to just be physically in the same spaces. And men are not great at maintaining those relationships in a certain way. Would you agree with that?
Saying everywhere. Part of the reason why I like doing this, because like now I don't have to see it for a couple of years.
We're done.
Knock this thing out.
Fucking nailed it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a fun time. You will never spend that much time with Mulaney again.
Huh?
I mean, I don't think so.
Huh?
I have bad news. No, he told me. He literally texted me on the way over here. I will never spend time with him like that again, and you can take that to the grave, he said. No, but you know what I mean? Like, that's the fun of doing a thing like it.
Well, and it makes you be like, how can I appreciate? And I did feel by the end of that run, I was like, this might be the best it gets. Like, the combination of things around this moment in time might make this and I was sort of aware of it near the end. And that's the nice thing about just going back to the beginning of like, the older you get, the more perspective you have on things. So that like, you know, when you have a show and you're 23 or you're in a good relationship when you're 25 or whatever, you don't have enough life experience to know that this is as good as it gets.
Yeah.
Except when you're watching the movie As Good As It Gets, and then you know it's as good as it gets.
Well, because it's in the title.
It's as good as it gets. Watching Jack Nicholson handle bacon out of a plastic bag.
Somebody's pretty well versed in As Good As It Gets. Yeah, and I would like to say that my competitiveness with Dad, because I shouldn't say I'm not competitive comedically. He said I'm the most competitive person he's ever met, and I said that's because you can't meet yourself. But I would want to get shit on because I wanted to contribute. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I didn't want to be dead weight. So if I also wanted to impress him. That's the part of a partnership that I think no one is like, it's people aren't aware of it. It's like, you want to impress Mulaney.
Yeah.
If he makes you laugh, it's funny. If I make Dave Chappelle laugh, it's probably fucking pretty funny.
Yeah. For sure.
Or mean.
Right.
Which I think we all share as comedians.
Yes. What makes us laugh isn't necessarily
so much meaner.
Yeah.
Someone said yesterday, I texted somebody and this reminds me to erase this thread. Anyhow.
So that's Confrontation. I'm going to bring it back.
But how did you do it with John? How would you guys handle that?
For much of our relationship, we didn't have much conflict. And then I think you hit a certain point. The older I get and the more therapy I get and the more podcasts I do about being therapized I get to do for free.
What do you want? Name your price. $300?
I want a pH balanced water.
You got it.
Well, there we go. The older I get, the more therapy I do, the more that I'm like, oh man, that element of my friendship with this person is bumming me out. And I have to eventually be like, hey, can we talk about this? It doesn't, I try not to do it a lot because
people love it.
And it seems you seem not cool and you don't seem manly to be like, hey, you're hurting my feelings.
I know.
But if you really value a friendship, then you have to sometimes be like, dude, you're fucking bumming me out, man.
Yeah.
And certain people are better at taking that and other people are not. But the truth is the people I hold dearest are sometimes the people who aren't always aware of how what they're doing.
And they get used to being able to do it.
Yes. But they're also hopefully the people who are like, I hear you. I will work on that.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's like, as we talk about confrontation in therapy, it's like what I think I have found is like the less that you're like, you did this and you did that, and the more it's like, hey, like when you did this, it made me feel like that, right? Like, because all you can really control is your truth, which is like, that's how this made me feel, versus like, you did this shitty thing. Like,
I truly don't know how to navigate it. And I say that as a old man. I do not know how to find the spot between your needs and your experience and my needs and my experience. Even the other day where I'm yelling, I'm on set and I'm like, oh, like I have like, I'm having like a.
You can feel a rage attack coming
It's not
on.
even it's more like a Asperger's-y in my body autistic reaction to a shot not being right.
Right.
I don't know how to navigate it. I don't know how, like, I have my needs. I talked to somebody the other day and I had a list of things that I needed to express to them.
Did you do it?
Yeah.
Did that help?
I mean, yeah, but I haven't heard from them.
Since then?
Yeah. But I felt the need to say, here's my point of view. And I know what your point of view most likely is. And I don't know how to.
Did you have that as a
negotiate it.
conversation, or were you just like, here's what I need to tell you?
Combo of both.
Yeah. Yeah.
Combination of both. And I don't know. Your most successful relationship would be your marriage, right? Meaning most harmonious and best. And
yeah, but not because the stakes are incredibly high at all times. Whereas I can like not talk to Mulaney for a month and we can work through our shit then, or another friend. Whereas like me and my wife can have a fight and then we have to get in bed and like deal with our child in the morning or whatever it is. Like the stakes feel so much higher in my relationship with my wife than any of my friends.
Yeah. That probably puts your friendships in better perspective too, right? Once you have like, oh, this is a real relationship. The rest of this is just like,
yes, and also, but it has made me then be like, oh, I need to like rethink this friendship, or I need to talk to him, because there's things I think when you then, it's one of the nice things about having a partner. For the most part, it's like sometimes you have someone to process your thing with, where you're like, hey, so and so is like fucking blew me off again, and my wife could be like, hey, that's like the third time that person's done that to you, like. Maybe you want to like have a conversation with them about how that's making you feel, because you keep talking about it. You're like, I'm like, okay. Versus before the relationship, I'd have just been like, that's how they are.
How do you resolve conflict with your wife?
Various ways. Fights.
And are you better? Have you improved at like, look, I know where you're, are you good at like compliment sandwiching, and are you good at any of it?
Well, that's where I'm like, start to be like, this is how this is making me feel, because, and that's something I've worked on in therapy, because I don't like confrontation. There are times where I will be like, I hear what you're saying, and I won't like say what my point of view inside of it is, because I want harmony. But I think ultimately, if you let that build, then resentment builds, and like you have to release that valve.
Yeah,
and also like sometimes I'm more just reactive. How I want my bathroom, it's like I want bath mats. I don't like wet floors in the bathroom, and I want towels hung back up so that they dry correctly. Like it makes me crazy when people don't do that.
Yeah,
and I will like say to my wife, like, hey, but then I will like, and then you realize like, oh, everybody's family's different. Like some people like hang shit on doors or hang it in the bathroom, or like don't, and you have to find this level of like, am I going to get enraged by this, or am I going to let this go?
Yeah. Or am I just going to acknowledge she's never doing that?
And it's just like, we just come from different families.
Yeah.
We have or like we are thinking about different things. Just like there are multiple things that I do in the house that make her fucking insane.
And have you guys stopped even acknowledging them? Like, yeah, it's fucking.
I mean, usually it's like things will come up where it's like I let stuff pile up. I can look at things for months/years in the house and never address them.
Why would you? Yeah.
And every once in a while, she'll do like a big old clean and she'll just like take all my shit and like dump it on my desk. And I'm like, can you not dump it on my desk? And she's like, you don't clean anything up. And I'm like, put the towels away. You know what I mean? Like it'll come out in that like weird, like those bursts, which is not the healthiest way for me to deal with it, you know, but like, you know, that's what marriage is like. It's this constant like negotiation, whatever relationship you're in, you know?
And that's still the best. That's the thing. Is like none of these relationships are flawless or without challenge or
I don't
without
think so.
Like it's not all harmony. You just have to figure out.
You just have to choose what are the things that are massively important that you need to deal with, and what are the things that are like you just accept that this is how this person is. I think you can hope that what you want to see, at least in what I think what one wants to see in a relationship, is that when one brings up an issue they have with their partner, big or small, that you see that the partner is trying to work at it. Like you're never going to get someone to be like 100% of what you think or want them to be. But if you see them attempting to like take the note and work on it, big and small, then that's the sign of like a relationship that to me is like working and evolving.
Yeah. It's just it's hard not to take it personally.
Yes, because it's personal.
Well, it's personal to you.
Yeah.
But she's not allowing slippery floors like to spite her husband.
No, that's the last thing.
Like maybe he'll slip.
Yeah. That's the last thing she wants to do. But I think, you know, when you're working on elements of yourself in regards to your relationship, part of that is like the central thing about being in a relationship is just thinking about the other person. You know, like just taking in their experience into account, whether it's a wet floor or when you're like sharing your schedule for the month, like, or like who's going to take care of the child tomorrow. They're things that are big and small, but they're signs of you are thinking about the other person in your relationship the way you think about yourself.
Yeah, and which is really hard to do because for 40 years you only thought about yourself.
Sure.
And now it's like, wait, what? Who?
You right?
My wife. Lily.
When was the last time you lived with someone?
6 years ago. It went all right. I had to rent an office because it was a loft and there were no doors. And I wouldn't talk on the phone much, but I would every once in a while. So it would just be me talking on the phone and like once a week, more than once a week. I'm going to name it up again. It was always Chris Rock would call me. And we would just yell at each other for an hour and one time she said a hilarious thing because we would talk about girls a lot. One time she goes, I hung up and she goes, why do you guys even date women? Which is very funny. But didn't work. Okay. This is a good one. A good block. Rage at baby. I love it already. I don't even know what it means.
Rage at baby. Well, when my child was really young, he's like 2, but when my baby was like, I don't know, and under a year, they cry uncontrollably multiple times a day, and I felt a bizarre rage at like that I couldn't like,
I feel like I would feel that.
You know, you're just like, oh my God. Like, it's like, I did this joke for a second on stage and then I found out that Nate Bargatze had a version of this joke. So I stopped doing it. But it was like,
I don't think he's good.
He's not.
I don't think he's a good comedian.
But he's listening to this podcast.
No, he's coming on.
Yeah. He's a very funny guy. But it was someone told me after I got off stage, I was like, oh, Nate does a joke like that.
Would you do a Southern accent?
Yeah. I go.
Sleepy Southern accent?
I remember living in New York and seeing those posters on the subway that said like never shake
Don't
a baby.
Shake a baby, yeah.
I was like, who is that poster for? I was like, oh, it turns out it was a poster for me in the future. Like because you would feel
whether you wouldn't have known not to do it.
Yes, exactly. Oh, thank you, the past. So, but I all of a sudden be like holding my baby like, wait, what was that poster on the subway again? I was like, I feel rage. I feel such rage that this like tiny creature is screaming at me uncontrollably. And I've talked to my wife about it and she was like, I don't think you're used to anybody yelling at you. And I was like, wow, yeah, because I come from tremendous, like a nice family. And also like I've always been in a very position of privilege. So it's very rare that people have yelled at me. Like I also do my best not to get people angry so they don't yell at me. Really, the only person for a certain period of time was yelling at me was my 6-month-old child. And it was unfathomable to me. And it put me into a almost blind rage.
I'm laughing at now. I'm like, oh well, I could be a parent because I'm so used to people yelling at me, and vice versa. I've had girls go, "Stop yelling." I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking. I'm just talking,
right?
So like yelling, what most people call yelling, it's actually I'm going to seem like a dinosaur. One time, Rosie O'Donnell was on Bill O'Reilly's talk show. I don't know how this happened, and I happened to watch it. It was probably in the early mid-90s. And he's like, Rosie, why do you think people don't like me? And she goes, Bill, because we're from Long Island and we're used to yelling at people, and to everyone else it's off-putting. But to us, it's just talking. So I'm with your baby on that.
Yes.
Me, Bill O'Reilly, Rosie O'Donnell, and your baby.
All of Israel.
And all of Israel. It doesn't just end at Israel.
Right. But I think it's like, I just was like, it was that, and really it was clarifying to me, being like, oh yeah, I'm just not used to this. I'm not used to someone, I'm not used to someone dealing with someone so deeply illogical as a child,
right,
as a baby. And I think it has caused me to take a step back, learn how to breathe through things, and also just accept that things and people are going to yell at me, and that there's no reasoning or smoothing out this conflict by like acquiescing on the color of the room or like making a little joke or whatever. There's just no two ways around it. You just have to take it, you know?
Yeah, it's funny because I'm of two minds, obviously. Like I'm of like, I'm used to people yelling at me, and I want to fight fire with fire. I really want to. I guess I would shake the baby.
I didn't shake the baby, but I have.
No, I don't think you should.
No, but I have screamed back a few times now, like, and he like.
Does it work?
Once or twice, it shocked. You got to shock a baby every now and again. You know that.
Yeah.
You know that, Blocks. Got to shock that baby.
My man Blocks.
But like it'll stun him. But also like there's something of like, and again, there's this thing around like, what kind of father do I want to be? What kind of man do I want to be? And I think in many modern instances, like we are told to be thoughtful and empathetic, and like we need to be less like kind of inherently masculine traits of like in how we parent and how we partner and all those things. And I believe that. And imagine if I just started taking like a weird like Andrew Tate turn on all of this, which would be awesome. The beginning. This is the seed of it all.
It has to be on a podcast.
Yeah. But I think like I started to be like, no, it's okay every once in a while for your kid to hear you fucking scream. Or for your kid to feel like, oh, I'm a little scared of my dad.
Yeah.
Like that's okay.
Having never had a kid, I don't.
That you acknowledge.
Right. I've got 3 kids, but they're never going to get a dime out of me. Do you understand me?
Yeah.
I'll see you in court, little guy. There is something to the dad being the dad. Like being an authority figure that like I don't think you should be terrified of your dad, but you should be respectful of your dad.
Yeah. And I think and I'm slowly being like, that's okay. I mean, I'm not like, so I'm fucking screaming at my kid all day, every day. But I think like a little bit of like, no, I'm the dad, and that's your mom. And like
Sebastian was saying he yells at his kids.
No,
like not a lot.
Sebastian?
But just like a little bit. He's like, they're very nice kids, but every once in a while you got to yell at them and like,
yeah, you got to like, yeah. Well, and I think it's a fear of like, of like, you don't want to raise like a little fucking rich prick.
Yeah.
So like, but again, there's a difference between like a sentient child who is like understands the world and a 6-month-old who is a blob that happens to be a human.
Right.
Like, who doesn't
Who's
truly
expressing an emotion, doesn't know what an emotion is, isn't going to remember this, doesn't know what's happening.
correct. There's a difference between that 6-month-old and like a 3-year-old who continues to like punch kids.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that like there's a distinction to be made there. There's nothing that 6-month-old had any sense of anything that they were doing, whether it was right or wrong. No, they had no sense. So like,
But
that's what made the rage so like, it wasn't like justifiable of like, hey, you're 5 and you keep pouring Kool-Aid on the white carpet, even though we've told you 3 times that Kool-Aid is very special. And that is to end all of our lives together in Jonestown.
Fuck, I didn't know where you were going. I thought you made a mistake. And you just learned like you can't. You rational minded your way through it.
I felt rage and expressed rage and then felt tremendous guilt about it because I was like screaming or so mad at a tiny infant that had no sense of anything.
And did your wife express this to you? Like, or was she like, look, man, I get it also. We just have to get through this period.
A little bit of all of it. I mean, she understood it because it was like frustrating, but she was more like, you know, she is a woman of color. And so she's like, I have been yelled at a lot. So I'm used to people yelling at me.
Who was yelling at her? Who's she talking about? The world or her family?
Various people. Various people in like, I think the world.
Yeah. She
was more used to it. So, and it's like, for me, it was a very foreign thing.
I hope she apologized to your kid when she just went, I'm sorry. Like all good women do when they're being yelled at. It's just apologize.
No, I was like, I got to apologize to this kid.
Well, that's when you said that thing of like feeling guilty. I feel like if I were a parent, I would vacillate between feeling guilty and feeling like, fuck them. You got to deal with it, kid. I'll pay for your therapy. Like I just made the decision. It was a mistake. Fuck it. I can't apologize all the time.
That's the great navigation of life. Is like, how do you try to create clear messaging for your child and your family, and also like admit when you're wrong. Like, but it's like being on stage. It's like all the audience wants to know is that you're in charge,
right?
And I think kids on some level want that same feeling of like, okay, mom is in charge, dad is in charge. Like everything's going to be okay.
Yeah,
I remember like when we started. Or when I started and you were doing those shows, like we were doing like little bar shows, and then I was doing like bringer shows at like Gotham or at the Boston, and my parents would come, my friends would come, family would come, and they would watch, and even at the open mics and shit, and they'd watch people get on stage and be like, I felt bad for that one guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, that guy lost as soon as he got on stage because he didn't seem in control. All the audience, that was the first, like, whether I'm funny or not, I'm going to get on stage and the audience is going to feel like, okay, we don't have to worry about this person. And I think parenting is very similar in that regard.
I had the greatest heckle at me of all time. There was a club on the Lower East Side of New York, and it was probably 2007 or 8, and I did a spot, and it was like, it was late, and it was like a very mixed crowd, like a lot of young, like Puerto Rican, New York-y kids. And I get on stage and one of them goes, it was one of those things where only I could really hear him. And he goes, yo, are you scared? And I was.
Yeah.
And it was such a devastating heckle.
That's so funny.
Okay. Can't control your eating.
No. I was just looking at my watch to be like, what time is it? When's my next feeding?
But you're not overweight, or you don't appear overweight.
No, I'm not overweight, but it's like I used to smoke for many, many years, and I felt truly like a slave to cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
No other substance like marijuana, alcohol, drugs, never was like, I don't need to do that today, or I don't need to do that this week. Like that never felt like that. But cigarettes, I was like, I'm completely beholden to this. And similarly with food, and I guess really sugar, I am like, I can't not eat. Like if there's a chocolate chip cookie in the kitchen.
Well, that's what I was watching your special and when I saw that this is one of your blogs, it was like, you just got to get it out of your house.
And I do until you know how chocolate chip cookies have little feet.
Uh-huh.
They scurry up into your kitchen.
Like the coffee. Is that the coffee and TV video for the Blur video? Where actually it's a milk carton. I think maybe there's a cookie, but yeah.
It's like let's go out to the movies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, or like
a
hankering for a hunk of cheese. You know what I mean? That skinny little legs. I try my best to keep it out of the house, but there's always a little something. And then you're like, oh, remember? Like I'll be like, remember when I bought like the supplies for s'mores 6 months ago? And so that means there's like a box of Hershey candy bars in the deep recesses of my pantry and some very hard marshmallows.
Rock hard.
Watch out, bro.
Yep.
Watch out, dude. I'm gonna get them, bruh.
Whoa. You got really cool really quickly.
I'm just doing that's if Theo Vaughn wants to eat a s'more. Bruh, I'm telling you.
It's the devil's dandruff.
Tell you, man.
Satan's little morsels.
I'm sucking on, dude. Bro, I'm telling you, I was straight up sucking on Frosty the Snowman's one testicle.
And so
putting that chocolate doo-doo in my mouth.
And does your wife have orders not to bring that filth into your house?
She doesn't have a sweet tooth.
Right.
And so she has no empathy for me in that. She's like, why don't you just not eat the cookie? Because I'm like, because it's all I can think about.
My experience with sugar is I went off. I just went off I was in Mexico. I went off. I have a sugar day. I don't know. That felt racist.
It's not judgment. I'm like, how? Oh,
I mean,
scary.
Like
all sugar, like bread.
Kind of bread, churro-y breakfasts.
Were you doing a lot of churro-y breakfast?
Like a lot of pastries.
Yeah. Well, I feel like if you're vegan.
Yeah. I got, spoiler alert. Remember those?
Yeah.
Wasn't that vegan. I don't eat meat, but sometimes I'll transition over to to vegetarian. Like on a big trip.
Yeah, don't say that in front of Dave.
Yeah, no, trust me.
Don't talk about transitioning.
I need to put it on a list of things to talk to him about it. So
you can decide
not cutting it. Not cutting it. He watches this podcast religiously, I'm sure. But
you cut it all out, and how do you feel?
I have a sugar day once a week. Sunday's a sugar day. I just go off, French toast, ice cream, garbage. That's on Sunday. Once I get to Wednesday, I'm not thinking about sugar. So you got to kind of kick the habit every week. Have you tried that and it still didn't?
I have tried like getting clean, like eating cleaner and clean.
You got hypnotized.
I got hypnotized to quit eating snacks, truly. And it worked for like a month and I lost weight and felt better. But I ultimately fell back in, and it's very like, I understand what you're doing, except I could not have Sunday. Like what I learned with cigarettes was like, I cannot have nicotine in my body at all.
When I quit smoking, I had the thought, if I smoke one, I'm going to smoke 10,000, and I cannot smoke one.
Yes. And so I think sugar probably functions the same way for me. Like I couldn't have Sunday. You know what I mean? I'd be like, I'm done with sugar and that's that, like, because if I even have any bit in my blood, like I remember when I was smoking and I would hear someone have like a phlegmy cough, like, I immediately be like, when's my next cigarette? Like that trigger, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like I feel like sugar, I'm on like a countdown to my next, and look, I'm not terrible. I'm not as bad as I could be, of course. I don't have much shit in my house at all. I can have ice cream live in my freezer for like months, but
not s'mores though.
Not s'mores, bro.
You got hypnotized.
I got hypnotized over the phone by a woman. I listened to that hypnosis over and over while I slept, and it helped for a while. And then I sort of like fall back in, because where I struggle in general is, what is a life without sugar?
Right. Well, you can't, it's not like alcohol where you can just kind of give it up and you'll be all right.
Right.
Like sugar's kind of in everything, and it's also great.
Yeah. And like the older you get and the less that you're like, I'm married, very happily married and like living a very contented life. But like those early halcyon days of New York where you're out like 5 nights a week and out and about and doing everything and everywhere. Life changes. And so like all of a sudden a chocolate chip cookie with a little sea salt on top, that's a good day.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
That's kind of sex for the people that aren't in their 20s.
Yeah, like
Sugar.
you're like, my skin is a fucking mess.
Why? That's another block.
It's a block as to like, and I think frankly, it all ties together in the skin.
It looks
like,
okay.
It looks all right now.
Okay.
But I'm on like various medications and I have cut out, ironically, I have cut out massive amounts of food in my life, things that I love.
For your skin.
For my skin.
Because like, you're rosacea and all that shit?
Yeah, it's rosacea's for the Irish.
Oh.
Jews have eczema.
Oh.
Here's my theory. It's like the Jews are like eczema. It's like to remind us of the pyramids that we built so that our skin will crackle like the straw of the pyramid floors. And the Irish, I feel like, are rosacea, where it's just like this like red rage that lives inside that, if triggered, like explodes onto one's face uncontrollably. So I think like I have some versions of eczema autoimmune, and I think it's like my inability to directly confront people, tamping down.
Do you think they're connected?
Yes. I think my emotional states definitely connect to that. And I think my emotional state is definitely connected to me not directly confronting people or things, or just like pushing things down emotionally has an effect on my skin. For sure, I can tell you like all of a sudden I'll eat something like, oh, fuck, I can feel my face getting itchy right now. I'm going to wake up tomorrow. My eyes are going to be swollen. I know it. Like I can tell. I'm like, for some reason, I'm like, I can't eat ginger anymore. Like not even bad shit. I'm like, ginger for some reason right now makes me think my skin goes fucking crazy. But I've cut out like dairy.
But have you had the thing where like you won't say something and you'll get a flare up?
No, but like if I'm in a stressful time in my life and I'm not directly addressing something on a real level, I can feel my skin getting worse. But I also talked to my therapist about it, and she was like, don't blame yourself entirely for your skin. Like, don't blame you, like, that you're not vocalizing this or this, and that's why your skin is terrible. It's like, she's like, you might just be allergic to a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Which is...
You might just be Jewish.
You might be. If your skin is made of pyramid blocks, then you might be Theovon. Does that make sense?
Now, are you still on
Jewish?
Yes. Smoking? Are you still smoking weed?
Yeah, but much less than I used to.
How come?
Because it just gets me too high. It's not like I can't. It's not a fun hang anymore.
I would not want to smoke weed around my kid, but just because my dad was an alcoholic and I don't like that.
No, I mean I'm not like ripping fucking bong hits and like driving my kid to work. My kid works full time.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, he's a
Is
model.
that part of your shock system?
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta. Hey, I'm Nick Kroll. You gotta shock the kid.
You gotta shock the kid, and this is Blocks. Welcome back to Blocks. Put your baby to work. Let him know who's boss. It's whoever he's working for. But if you do go to the Marshalls on Hollywood, you will see my son. He's working in red sweatshirts.
He's big for his age.
He's very big for his age.
Yeah.
You're going to see what looks like to be a developmentally disabled Mexican man. That is my son. He works at Marshalls.
And his name is Pedro.
Yeah, his name is Pedro. Vote for Pedro, folks.
It's a weird one.
Well, I didn't stop smoking weed because of my kid. I mean, like, your life changes, so you're not like, again, like going back to your 20s, like the days of like being able to like smoke weed in the middle of the day and like fucking off and going to go have breakfast with Roger Hales. Those days are gone. But like if I'm in a very controlled environment where I'm like my kid's safe, I'm doing whatever I'm doing, I can still like smoke a little bit of pot, but I just don't. It more just like it's not as enjoyable in the way it was. Like I just freak out or like my brain moves too fast. But I will in specific ways and I will smoke what I know I can smoke in a certain amount. Like I have a joke, I think it's in the act in the special, which is like if I smoke someone else's joint, I'm like, this is a mistake. Next thing I know, it's 4 a.m. and I'm nude in my kitchen looking at family pictures, which is how
rock hard.
So fucking thick blood.
Covered in hives and
oh my
skin
God.
reactions.
Truly. But I've alcohol, I've cut way back specifically because of my skin. I've cut way back on alcohol and life. Like you have a child, you have to wake up at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
But alcohol, I have cut way, way back largely because of my skin. Not because I had a problem, but because I was my skin will become enraged if I drink a lot of alcohol.
Yeah. Okay. What therapies or what habits have you done that made your life better? Because the point of the podcast is we say our problems and then we say anything that's helped us.
Let's see. I mean, I've been in regular therapy. My current therapist I've been with for over 10 years.
Great. How'd you guys celebrate your anniversary? Go ahead.
I bought her a Lexus and put a bow on it.
Fuck.
And her husband was furious.
Ecstatic.
He was furious that I didn't get him one as well.
Yeah, okay.
We maybe have a slightly enmeshed relationship. So
but we'll
next
see.
section, I got him one because I want him to like it.
Yeah, you have to. You're a people pleaser.
And I see him looking through the people on the sessions. You know what I mean?
Yeah, let him watch.
Oh, I love it.
Even more eyeballs are eyeballs. Who cares?
No. So I've been with my therapist for at least 10 years, and I was in therapy before that. I mean, I think regular therapy, even when you're not in a moment where you're I need to be in therapy, I think that's also when big things happen. It's like doing, it's like doing spots. For me, the spots are the therapy. You know what I mean? It's like going to the gym, but with your therapist.
We're working out.
And the audience is the therapist. Got to get the reps. You know what I mean? That's why because we're assassins. That's why we call it
We're
killing.
the modern day philosophers. If you are going to go to therapy, tell on yourself or you're not, or you're wasting your money. You have to tell the worst parts of yourself or you're wasting your fucking money.
I am very honest in therapy.
Yeah.
Nowhere else. And nowhere else. Everywhere else is a lie. Except for Blocks. This Tuesday on ABC. It's so crazy. I'm so glad you got the Tuesday slot on
it's
ABC.
Such a great slot after Home Improvement.
I agree. Be radically honest in therapy.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's pointless.
Yep.
I do that very regularly, very, very regularly.
You never took medication?
I have not taken medication.
Great. Think you're so tough?
I do.
Without the medication?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I lift.
Think you're better than me?
Yeah. I hit a punching bag of Zoloft like a every morning.
Yeah.
I'm
Speed
tough.
bag it.
I'm
you're
speed bag
very
it.
tough guy.
And then I do a speedball.
Yeah,
I should mention that.
Different things.
I have zero problem with if I felt like I genuinely needed to take medication, not for a minute would I think not about it. You've talked about this, and I am a believer of it. I used to do it more recreationally, but now with intention. But plant medicine, I think can be really helpful.
Name your plant medicines.
I got a couple of them.
Do you consider weed a plant medicine?
If used correctly.
Yeah, I think in like a narrow bandwidth.
Very narrow bandwidth. I think it's like what I believe is the older I get with everything, whether it's alcohol, weed, mushrooms, ayahuasca, ketamine, frankly, mood stabilizers or pharmaceuticals, whatever it is that you're doing, therapy, talk therapy, EPT, I don't know what's it called, EPT or EMDR,
TMS,
hypnosis.
Yep.
It's just all about doing it intentionally. It's about, and it's something I've learned very much from my wife is being intentional with whatever it is you're doing. Like if you're
intentional is an overused word.
Yes. But for example, I'll get more specific. It's like if you are going to eat psychedelics, like whether it's ayahuasca or mushrooms or whatever, that you are going in mindfully as to what you are about to do.
Yeah. Meaning with a purpose.
Yes.
Like what I want a question answered.
Yes.
I'm not going to party.
No. And by the way,
I'm going to try to solve an issue.
And by the way, oftentimes that will not get solved, but something else will.
But it will be a party.
It will be a fucking throwdown. Every Tuesday, Blocks on Spike TV.
Sorry, you got...
Yeah, I mean, you really hammering me. Okay, so I don't know what you've done, though.
I haven't told you.
I know, and I'm excited. I think I know, and I can't wait.
Y'all gotta pay me a lot more than to give this one away
pH
here.
balanced water, motherfucker.
Yeah, brother. What I will tell you is that like you go in with an intention of like I want to do this or that. I want to work on this element of myself, and you hope that that comes through. Even if your intention is to be fucking a goofball. Like the older you get and the more like life becomes not so silly. Like sometimes you're like, no, the goal of this afternoon with my friends or in this circle or wherever you are is to be fucking a goofball. Then if that's what you get out of it, terrific. Maybe that's what you really needed, you know?
You've done mushrooms?
Yeah.
Big doses?
I have tended not to do, I did some recently. I did not come in like mindfully into doing them. I was like, doing a bunch of shit, and then I was like, all right, time. And it was like, and it kind of knocked me on my ass. And it was not, I was like, ooh, that was work. But it was ultimately very interesting and useful.
Were you with people?
Yeah. But we were in a scenario where we were being kind of quiet. It was not like and I was like, oh, that was not, it was useful, but it was not fun.
That's my experience with ayahuasca, which you don't want to talk about on here, but maybe sounds like you've taken.
Would you consider OxyContin a plant medicine?
I think it's a master teacher. That's what they call it.
Right.
Of the plant medicine.
Yeah. But I mean, I think like whatever it is you're doing, it's just, anyway, in the drug space, it's like, you just are doing it. I agree. The word intentional is like overused.
Just purposefully.
And I would say the same with therapy. And I would say the same with, and for me, hypnosis was effective. The first time I did hypnosis to quit smoking, I was just like, I want out. I want fucking done. And it worked. And then I went back for other stuff. And at that point, I had also started meditating a little bit. And I was like, oh, this is just like meditating with somebody talking to you is what hypnosis, I realized like hypnosis sort of is.
Yeah.
And that was also very helpful. And it was easier for me to drop in and get the message faster because I had done enough meditation at that point to, and I never meditate. I wish I meditated more.
It's the hardest of the things.
That mushroom experience that I was like, we were all being quiet and I was like, oh, I'm not very good at stillness. I'm not very good at being quiet. Like, and I don't know if a lot of people feel that way or not.
Everybody does.
Like,
don't think as in the hardest thing in the world.
Yeah.
It's the hardest. That's the point of meditation. It's like, because Catholics like, don't think dirty thoughts or mean thoughts.
I feel like Catholic was like, in general, was like, hey guys, yeah, don't think.
Well, no, but they're like, here, don't think this and that.
Right.
Whereas, and you go, all right, I'll go over here. Don't think fucking anything. You're like, anything? Nothing. You weak pussy.
Well, and the Jews were like, don't think I'm not gonna cool you.
Nick Kroll.
We did it?
Yep.